so fascinated with this case because they're famous, because of the details.
What did the jury see?
He just kicked me.
It didn't happen.
I don't know who to believe.
I was hitting you. Mr. Depp is your victim, isn't he?
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the new Netflix limited series, Depp vs. Heard. This obviously focuses on the trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard that obviously consumed the world a couple of years ago. And its big selling point, this documentary, is that it's for the first time you get to see their testimonies side by side, if you like, whereas in reality at the trial, the testimonies from Johnny Depp and Amber Heard were kind of weeks apart, so you kind of get to see them side by side in this documentary. Also sewn into this documentary, it's 3 episodes, 3 50-minute episodes, something like that. You also get sewn into this the social media coverage that this trial garnered. And let's be fair, any of us that followed this trial knows the impact that this had on social media. It was another level. I know to a large degree, if you like, we're all still partly within COVID, I suppose, or just coming out of COVID, and this kind of just captured the interest of the public for whatever reason. And I'm not here to speculate on what that reason is, really. That's for you guys to kind of come up to your own conclusions, I suppose. But what is this limited series like? Well, it's fine. I enjoyed it for what it was, but for me, it didn't shine any new light onto this case. But then again, I'm not actually sure that was its point, or that was what it was aiming for. You know, there was no new interviews really, or no new evidence and that kind of stuff. It was mainly, they would cover the main points of the trial. The acts of violence, the Amber Heard filming him in his drunken rages, the text messages, the incident in Australia where they all kicked off, and so on and so forth. It goes over and over and over, and it covers like the main points of the trial. And yes, of course, the caca-poo-pooing in Johnny Depp's side of the bed was covered, and it hits all their main points, but honestly, I just don't think this went deep enough. What I was hoping for was a real examination of the Depp versus Heard trial, and all this is really is just the highlights of the trial. It's like someone's gone through all the footage, all the testimonies, all the depositions, everything like that, and they've just kind of edited it all together quickfire style and sewn in like all this social media stuff and news coverage that it got. And like I say, I just don't think it went deep enough. There was many interactions that I remember, especially between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's lawyers, where he tore him a new one, really, and he was very dry and funny. And you barely got any of that really here in this. It didn't really focus on the competencies of the trial lawyers, if you like. Amber Heard's lawyers, who were appalling. Really, that's the impression I got from all the footage that I watched. And Johnny Depp's, that obviously seemed to have a much better he seemed to have a much better team, and I think that's fair to say. That female one, whose name I forget now, unfortunately, she was like the toast of the town after this sort of thing. This trial was finished. And it didn't give enough, is the impression I got. And I think what it did try to be balanced here, because I watched this with my wife, and I think it's fair to say the majority of people here were on Johnny Depp's side. I'm one of these, whereas if someone is proven innocent in a court of law, then as far as I'm concerned, okay, well then that person's innocent or that person's guilty or whatever, because they've gone through a much deeper process than you and I debating it on social media. And while the system is obviously flawed in any country, never mind just America, it's probably the closest you're going to get to the truth and justice, if you like. So as far as I'm concerned, the court has, was in favour of Johnny Depp, so therefore he's innocent. And this documentary does show the gaffes, if you like, that Amber Heard and her team made, and the lies that they were caught up in. And the one thing you can say about Johnny Depp is he seemed to always be telling the truth here. He didn't kind of hide the fact that he was addicted to, he was a drug addict. He drank too much. He was verbally aggressive at times, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Amber Heard and her team, it felt like they were trying to hide all that, and she was like squeaky clean and a victim. And clearly, well, they were both in the wrong at times. The whole idea of this case was Johnny Depp brought it to trial because he felt like she's ruined his career by putting out there what she put out there, that she was a victim and he was an abuser, and he wanted to prove that that was incorrect. And that was the crux of the case, obviously. So, yeah, I think if you followed the trial quite closely, and it was hard to avoid it at the time, I think that's quite truthful. It was literally everywhere you looked, on social media, on YouTube, on the national news. It was literally everywhere. It was the talking point for a good few months. Then you might enjoy this to kind of revisit the trial, but don't go into this looking for a kind of a real deep dive or some lots of new evidence or some analytic stuff going on here. This almost for me felt more like it had been put together for entertainment purposes rather than a debate to be had. Even though it did try to be balanced, it clearly favoured Johnny Depp. And that's probably because, as I said, the evidence favoured him anyway in this trial, and obviously the wave of support that he got on social media clearly was in his favour. So it did try to be balanced, but it didn't feel that way, certainly, by the end. But I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed the 3 episodes. They were entertaining enough. It showed what a real absolute circus that this trial was. So yeah, check it out on Netflix, guys. It's on there right now if you're interested in watching it, and I will of course be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.